If a 400-pound silverback gorilla went to war with an 800-pound crocodile, who would win? It's no secret that crocodiles have incredibly strong bites. They can crush bones and pierce through flesh with ease. But what happens when they go up against an opponent that's not only bigger than them, but stronger than them as well? We've seen animals twice the size of crocodiles lose to them. But how about a gorilla? In today's video, we're going to find out what would happen if a silverback gorilla went toe-to-toe with a giant crocodile. Let's get into it. Crocodiles are undoubtedly one of the most feared predators on this planet for good reason. They can easily take down prey much larger than themselves. In fact, there are many reports of crocodiles attacking and killing full-grown humans. That's why it's always recommended to avoid wild crocodiles at all costs. But while crocodiles are extremely powerful, they do have their weaknesses. Crocodiles are not known for being particularly agile. This is mainly due to their body shape, which makes it difficult for them to move around quickly on land. Their short legs and long bodies make them look somewhat clumsy on land, and they tend to move at a slow pace. However, in water, crocodiles are much more graceful and can move with surprising speed and agility. Their powerful tails help them propel themselves through the water, and their webbed feet allow them to steer and maneuver easily. Another weakness of crocodiles is their reliance on stealth. Because crocodiles are ambush predators, they rely on sneaking up on their prey and catching them off guard. Once their prey is in their sights, crocodiles will often freeze in place, trying to blend in with their surroundings. This allows them to stalk their prey without being detected until it's too late. However, if their prey is able to detect them, crocodiles are much less effective predators. Despite these weaknesses, crocodiles are still formidable opponents and should not be underestimated. They have incredible bite forces and can easily overpower their prey once they have it in their jaws. So while it may seem like a mismatch, it would be unwise to assume that a gorilla would easily defeat a crocodile. Gorillas, on the other hand, are known for their incredible strength and agility. Male gorillas, known as silverbacks, are the largest living primates and can reach heights of up to 6 feet and weigh up to 400 pounds. They are incredibly muscular, and their strength should not be underestimated. Gorillas are also very agile and can move around in trees with ease. They're also excellent swimmers, which will come in handy if the fight takes place near water. In addition to their physical strength, gorillas also have sharp teeth and powerful jaws that they can use to inflict serious damage on their opponents. They also have long arms that they can use to keep their opponents at a distance or to swing in for powerful punches. And let's not forget their intelligence. Gorillas are highly intelligent animals, and they use their intelligence to outsmart their opponents. They can plan ahead and strategize, which gives them an edge in fights. They can also learn from their mistakes and adapt their fighting style as needed. So, in a one-on-one fight between a gorilla and a crocodile, who would win? It really depends on the environment and the individual animals involved. If the fight takes place on land, the gorilla would likely have the upper hand. Their greater strength and agility would allow them to overpower the crocodile and inflict serious damage on it. The crocodile's reliance on stealth and its weaknesses on land would make it vulnerable to the gorilla's attacks. However, if the fight takes place in water, the crocodile would likely have the advantage. While crocodiles cannot move as quickly as gorillas on land, they are much more agile in water. Their powerful tails and webbed feet would allow them to dodge the gorilla's attacks and tire it out. The gorilla's lack of experience in fighting in water could also be a disadvantage, making it vulnerable to the crocodile's ambush tactics. The outcome of the fight also depends on the individual animals involved. A particularly aggressive and cunning crocodile could potentially overpower a weaker or less experienced gorilla. Similarly, a particularly large and strong gorilla could overpower even a giant crocodile. Let's consider a few scenarios to better understand how this fight might play out. Scenario 1. The battle on land. If the battle takes place on land, the gorilla would most likely come out on top. As we mentioned earlier, gorillas are incredibly strong and agile animals, and their physical prowess would likely be too much for the crocodile to handle. The gorilla's sharp teeth and powerful jaws would be a constant threat to the crocodile, and the gorilla could easily inflict serious damage on the crocodile with a single punch or kick. Additionally, the gorilla's intelligence would also be a factor in this fight. Gorillas are highly intelligent animals, and they use their intelligence to outsmart their opponents. They can plan ahead and strategize, which gives them an edge in fights. They can also learn from their mistakes and adapt their fighting style as needed. So if the crocodile tries to use any tricks or tactics against the gorilla would likely be able to counter them. Overall, if the battle takes place on land, the gorilla would likely win the fight. The crocodile's reliance on stealth and its weaknesses on land would make it vulnerable to the gorilla's attacks. Scenario 2. The battle in water. If the battle takes place in water, the crocodile would most likely come out on top. As we said before, crocodiles are much more agile in water than they are on land. Their powerful tails and webbed feet would allow them to dodge the gorilla's attacks and tire it out. Additionally, crocodiles are ambush predators, which means they rely on sneaking up on their prey and catching them off guard. In a water environment, this tactic would be much easier for the crocodile to employ, as the water would provide it with plenty of opportunities to hide and ambush the gorilla. On the other hand, the gorilla's lack of experience in fighting in water could be a major disadvantage. Gorillas are primarily terrestrial animals, and they don't have the same level of agility in water as crocodiles. This means that the gorilla would be more vulnerable to the crocodile's ambush tactics, and it would be difficult for the gorilla to defend itself against the crocodile's powerful jaws and teeth. Overall, if the battle takes place in water, the crocodile would likely win the fight due to its greater agility and experience in fighting in water. The ultimate showdown. Now let us imagine a scenario where the fight between the gorilla and the crocodile takes place near water. This would make sense because crocodiles live in or near water. So let's say the fight starts on land and then moves to water. In this scenario, the fight would likely start off with the crocodile trying to use its stealth and ambush tactics to get the drop on the gorilla. However, the gorilla's intelligence and strength would make it difficult for the crocodile to get close enough to the gorilla to launch a successful attack. The gorilla would likely be able to detect the crocodile's movements and counter them with its own powerful attacks. The gorilla would likely try to use its strength to overpower the crocodile and inflict serious damage on it. However, as the fight progresses, the crocodile would likely try to drag the fight into the water. This would play to the crocodile's strengths and allow it to use its agility and experience in fighting in water to its advantage. Once in the water, the crocodile would be able to dodge the gorilla's attacks more easily and tire out the gorilla, making it more vulnerable to the crocodile's powerful jaws and teeth. At this point, the gorilla would need to use all of its intelligence and experience to try to survive. The gorilla would need to find a way to defend itself against the crocodile's attacks and try to counterattack and inflict damage on the crocodile. Ultimately, the outcome of this fight would depend on a number of factors, including the individual animals involved and their experience in fighting styles. However, if we're looking at this fight objectively, it's likely that the crocodile would have the advantage in this fight. The crocodile's agility and experience in fighting in water would be too much for the gorilla to handle, and the gorilla's lack of experience in fighting in water would make it vulnerable to the crocodile's attacks. So if a 400-pound silverback gorilla went to war with an 800-pound crocodile, the crocodile would most likely win the fight, especially if the fight takes place near water. That's all for today's video. Which animal do you think would win the fight? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more amazing videos. See you next time. This is a very special episode of Animal Logic. This is one that everyone has been waiting for. It's a giant gorilla versus a crocodile. Who would win? Let's bug battle. In our first matchup, we have a giant gorilla. And this one isn't just any gorilla. It's Mogwai, a member of the extinct genus of great apes, Paranthropus. The genus includes several species, including Boisei, Robustus, and Ethiopicus, but it's Mogwai that stands out from the rest. This specimen was unearthed in 1929 in the Olduvai Gorge, Tanzania, but it was so well preserved that it took almost 3 years to excavate from the site. Why? Because Mogwai had a lot of bones, 400 to be exact. All told, it weighed over 800 pounds and stood about 6 feet tall, when bipedally. It also had a skull that was nearly twice the size of a modern human skull with teeth like these. Let's compare the mighty Mogwai to some other extinct creatures like the saber-toothed cat. Now the saber-toothed cat was the undisputed predator of its time. It hunted down mammoths and other large herbivores during the Pleistocene epoch. But even though the saber-toothed cat was an apex predator, it stood no chance against the might of Mogwai. The thing is, the saber-toothed cat was around 10 times smaller than Mogwai. And let's not forget that Mogwai was a very real animal that existed here on Earth. It wasn't something that evolved in a parallel universe where dinosaurs never went extinct. So put simply, Mogwai could easily step on a saber-toothed cat and kill it instantly. And do one forget the fact that Mogwai had enormous hands with which it could punch like Mike Tyson. In fact, Mogwai could probably punch through a saber-toothed cat like a piece of Swiss cheese. That means Mogwai wins this matchup and moves on to fight another day. But it's gone, need to be at its best. Because in the other corner, we have a crocodile. Not just any crocodile, mind you, this is Sarcosuchus imperator, the largest crocodile that ever lived. These prehistoric monsters were around for the late Cretaceous period. They lived across what is today North Africa and Southern Europe. Back then, they grew to lengths of 40 to 50 feet, making them longer than the biggest dinosaurs. They also weighed between 10 and 15 tons. That's longer and heavier than a T-Rex. But they weren't built quite as beefy as the king of the dinosaurs. If a T-Rex were to somehow magically appear in their habitat, it would surely make a quick meal out of Sarcopterygonis. So the only way Sarcopterygonis could win this matchup is if it kept its distance and used its tail to lash out at its opponent. If you think this matchup is close, please click the like button right now. Then let's get back to the bug battle. See, Sarcosuchus didn't have the bulk to go toe-to-toe with a Tyrannosaurus. That's why it relied on stealth and speed to catch its prey. When it lashed out with its powerful tail, it did so with incredible force. In fact, paleontologists estimate that a 50-foot-long Sarcopterus could deliver a blow equivalent to 2,350 pounds of force. That's enough to smash a car into pieces. But will it be enough to take down a giant ape? Well, there's only one way to find out. Let's bug battle. The giant gorilla charges forward with arms outstretched. Its eyes are locked onto the imposing crocodile. The croc doesn't budge. Instead, it waits patiently for the perfect moment to strike. Just as the giant ape closes in for the attack, the croc lashes out with its tail. It catches the gorilla squarely in the chest and sends it flying. The gorilla stumbles backward, but quickly recovers and charges forward once again. The croc remains unfazed. It continues to wait patiently for its next opportunity. As the gorilla closes in, the croc strikes again. It hits the gorilla in the legs and sends it crashing to the ground. The giant ape struggles to get up, but the croc is on top of it in a flash. It opens its massive jaws and bites down on the gorilla's neck. The gorilla screams in pain and tries to fight back, but it's too late. The croc is too strong, and it quickly overpowers the giant ape. With a final bite, the croc severs the gorilla's spine and ends its life. The croc lets out a victorious roar and raises its head in the air. It has won the battle, but at what cost? It is badly injured and will likely die soon. Still, it has one last surprise in store for the gorilla. Before it dies, the croc releases a poisonous venom into the gorilla's bloodstream. The gorilla writhes in pain as the venom takes effect. It isn't fatal, but it will keep the gorilla incapacitated for some time. The croc lets out a final breath and dies. The gorilla, wounded but alive, slowly gets to its feet and walks away from the corpse of the croc. It has won the battle, but it is clear that it will take some time to recover. I'm sorry, but the winner of this matchup by knockout is Sarcosuchus. Even though the giant gorilla put up a valiant effort, it couldn't withstand the power of the crocodile's tail. It was simply too much for the ape to handle, and it ended up losing the battle. Still, it was a good fight while it lasted. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and check out our other content. We have all sorts of amazing matchups for you to enjoy. So sit back, relax, and let the bug battles begin.